Over the weekend, students, parents and teachers marched on the Department for Education, unhappy that an algorithm had torched their hopes for the future. In near universal criticism, including from his own ministers, Boris Johnson's government has had to follow Nicola Sturgeon's in bowing to public pressure. It was left to Ofqual, the regulator in England, to apologise.
I'd like to say sorry. We have recognised the difficulty that young people have faced coping with the receipt of grades that they were unable to understand the basis on which they had been awarded. And I would like to say sorry for that. And we are now taking steps to put that right.
But this evening's U-turn doesn't draw a line under the scandal, with many wondering why Education Secretary Gavin Williamson hadn't been able to avoid causing such distress, especially after the experience in Scotland. Before the announcement, I spoke to A-level student Cara in South London. She was predicted 3 A's, but the algorithm only gave her ABC. That wasn't enough for either of her two prospective universities. Her first choice, Leeds, gave her 3 weeks to try to appeal her grades, but it's been a difficult time.
It's so heartbreaking to open up your grades that aren't even yours because you don't do the exam, and then see that you have been marked down because of something that you can't control. It's horrible, honestly.
For mum Louise, whose other daughter is awaiting her GCSE results, she's lost faith in the government.
They need to listen to the teachers. They need to respect the teachers. The teachers don't feel respected. I think they feel attacked. They felt attacked all through lockdown. I think it's time for them to stand up and believe in the teachers and to award those children the grades that those teachers who knew them gave them.
Labour have welcomed the U-turn, but believe this year's chaos hasn't been helped by the scrapping of coursework and AS levels in England.
Now we can see the utter folly of putting all the eggs in the one basket of a final exam assessment at the end of the year. Of course, nobody could have predicted a pandemic, but being able to have a more rounded assessment copes better in these sorts of emergency times, and I would say is much fairer to students. And I hope that government ministers will now be learning from this experience.
Despite there being some relief tonight for tens of thousands of families, now university admissions officers will be under strain. The students try to claim places which may no longer be available, and some who accepted their second choice attempt to upgrade.
And Vincent is in Westminster for us now. Vincent, we've heard from the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson in the last few minutes. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he's spoken in the last few minutes and apologised. This is his reason for why he has performed this screeching U-turn.
Over the weekend, it became clearer to me that there were a level of the number of students who were getting grades that, frankly, they shouldn't have been getting and should have been doing a lot better. And the evidence, both from Ofqual and other external bodies, was apparent that action needed to be taken.
Now, for a man who was boldly claiming in newspaper interviews over the weekend that there would be no apology and no U-turn, this is highly embarrassing. And when you look at the timeline between results and taking this decision, it's happened much quicker than it did in Scotland. So many people will be wondering why, when the government cancelled exams months ago and they've had all this time to prepare, did they not get this right after seeing what went wrong north of the border?
And Vincent, what's the situation for students like Cara? We just saw her in your report just then. She missed out on her place. I mean, what happens to her now?
Well, I've spoken to Cara and they're trying to figure this out now. She knows that she's at least got into her second choice, but they're still trying to figure out what will happen to her first choice offer now, because simply those places might not be there anymore. So for her and students across England, Wales, Northern Ireland, they will be trying to figure out what to do, whether to, just take the second place offer if they can now get in there, whether to try to get to their first, or even if they've got better grades and expected to go to an even better university. UCAS, the admissions body, is telling them to speak to their parents, to speak to schools, to try to work out what to do. But, despite all this confusion now still over their futures, there is one thing that is for certain. A-level students and GCSE students this year will all be eligible to vote in the next couple of years. And it might mean that when it comes to their grading on this at the ballot box, they're going to be punished.